Hello chess fans! Welcome back to the Chessventura channel. In this video, we'll be diving into a fascinating chess game played by the magician from Riga, none other than Mikhail Tal. This match took place in 1969 and saw Tal face off against Boris Gulko. In this game, Tal showcased his signature brilliance with a series of sacrificial moves that have become his hallmark. Without further ado, let's jump right into the game. Playing as white, Tal opened with pawn to e4, and black responded with pawn to c5, entering the Sicilian defense. White followed up with knight to f3, preparing to push the d-pawn, while black played pawn to d6. Tal proceeded with pawn to d4, and after an exchange on d4, white's knight took over the square. Black developed the knight to f6, attacking white's central pawn on e4. Tal calmly defended it with knight to c3, and black followed with pawn to e6. Tal wasted no time launching an aggressive plan, advancing the f-pawn to f4, solidifying control over key squares in black's position. Black developed the knight to c6, offering a trade, but Tal declined by moving his bishop to e3. This move not only supported the knight, but also opened up possibilities for white to castle queenside. Black responded by developing the bishop to e7, and Tal placed his queen on f3. Black then played pawn to a6 to control the b5 square, preventing white's bishop from occupying it. Tal followed up with queenside castling, while black played queen to c7, reinforcing pawn structures and preparing for future moves. Tal continued his offensive strategy by pushing pawn to g4, signaling his intent to break through black's defenses. Black countered by exchanging knights, attacking white's queen in the process. Tal recaptured with the bishop, and black pushed pawn to e5, attacking white's bishop and putting pressure on the pawn at g4. White responded by capturing on e5, and after black recaptured with the pawn, the bishop came under attack again. At this moment, Tal placed his queen on g3, pinning black's pawn to the queen. In this position, black's best move was to develop the bishop to d6, threatening to eliminate white's bishop since the pawn was no longer pinned. After white retreated the bishop to e3, black could have played bishop to e6 to block white's knight from jumping to d5 and prepared for castling. However, in the actual game, black made a misstep by capturing a pawn with the knight, giving Tal an opportunity to develop his bishop to e2 with tempo, attacking the knight and threatening to capture black's central pawn on e5. Once again, black made an inaccurate move by placing the queen on a5. Perhaps the idea was to free itself from white's pin, threaten to capture the bishop with a pawn, and at the same time put pressure on white's pawn on a2. Tal, unfazed by this threat, chose to exchange his bishop for black's knight. Black followed up by capturing the bishop with the pawn, which also attacked the knight on c3. Tal responded by positioning his knight on d5, securing a commanding outpost in the center of the board. Black continued with the queen capturing the pawn, and Mikhail Tal repositioned his queen to e5, threatening checkmate with a queen capture on the bishop. Black countered by playing the queen to a1, delivering a check that forced white's king to move to d2. The black queen then returned to a5 for another check, but Tal blocked it with pawn to b4. Black retreated the queen to e8 to defend the bishop against white's looming threats. Tal maintained the pressure by sliding his rook from h1 to g1. Black's next move, pawn to f6, was yet another strategic mistake. In this position, the best move for black would have been capturing white's bishop with the bishop. If black had done so, and white's rook recaptured, black could have offered a queen trade on d6. If white tried a fork with the knight jumping to c7, the black king could have moved to d7. If white's queen captured the black queen, black's bishop could recapture. If white's knight then captured the rook, black's rook could eliminate the knight. While black would have been down in material quality, it would have gained a significant pawn advantage. Returning to the actual game, black's decision to push pawn to f6 gave Tal the opportunity to bring his bishop to h5, delivering a check. If black tried to block the check with a pawn, white's knight would immediately capture it, worsening black's position. As a result, black moved the king to f8. Mikhail Tal, with his characteristic brilliance, made a surprising move. Despite the appearance of his queen being under threat from black's pawn, He ignored it entirely and instead sacrificed his rook by capturing the pawn on f6. Now black had two options: capture the queen or the rook. In the actual game, black chose to capture the queen with the pawn. Let's explore the alternative. What if the black king had captured the rook instead? If the black king captured the rook, Tal could then play rook to g1, delivering a check. Black's best response would be moving the king to h6, after which white could continue with queen to f4, delivering another check. The black king would be forced to capture the bishop, followed by white's queen moving to f3 for another check. After the king returns to h6, the queen to g3 creates a checkmate threat. In this position, white has two ways to deliver checkmate: either queen to h4 or queen to g7, supported by the knight moving to f4. Black's only way to delay the inevitable would be to sacrifice the queen, but after white's pawn captures the queen, checkmate becomes unavoidable within a few moves. Returning to the actual game, black captured the queen with the pawn, but this move was no better than the previous scenario. Tal followed up with rook to f7, delivering a check. The black king moved to e8, but Tal kept up the pressure. The rook captured the bishop, delivering a double check, which forced the black king to move to f8. Tal then played his rook to f1, delivering yet another check. The black king stepped over to g8, and after Tal moved his rook to f7, black resigned. The threats in this position were undeniable. Checkmate with the knight moving to f6. If black tried to defend with queen to d6 to control the f6 square, Tal could play rook to e8, delivering a check. The only forced response for black would be blocking the check with the queen, but the game would end with knight to f6, delivering a decisive checkmate. Well, that was a spectacular game by Mikhail Tal, filled with brilliant sacrifices and relentless attacks. I hope this analysis inspires and enhances your chess understanding. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. See you in the next chess video.